guys, welcome back to the Greenback Voyage podcast. I'm your host, Shravan.
And I'm your co-host, Joel.
And with us this week is another new member that we've decided to add to our weekly podcast. Krishna, if you wanted to, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name's Krishna. I'm the new podcast member here, a co-host. I look forward to talk about a lot of global topics.
Yeah, we have a controversial guy on as well. Hopefully not too controversial, but I guess in the past 2 weeks we've been kind of rebranding ourselves, making sure that the next stage of our podcast gets off to a great start. So you would have seen our new logo as well as some of our new thumbnails that are hopefully on YouTube and Spotify. But enough of that, let's get on to the quick updates for the week. I think the first one we need to address is President Biden announcing that all U.S. adults should be eligible for COVID-19 vaccinations by April 19th, which is, I think, about 2 weeks earlier than planned. So that's, I think, the main COVID news of the week. Along with that, we have the world economy, which is expected to grow over 6% this year. And this is led by the U.S. and China, as more vaccines are going out to, consumers out there. And it doesn't really look like the Suez Canal impacted the GDP all too much. At least that's what the IMF is saying. So that's kind of surprising.
I don't think it was that big of an issue. I mean, they resolved it in like 10 days, right? So
yeah.
But speaking of the Suez Canal issue, a week after even after it was resolved, there were so many ships on the west coast of California, right? They were just in standstill, and I think this was across the world. There was, if you go down into the Red Sea, there's a lot of ships in ports that couldn't still pass because it's kind of like a bottleneck situation, right? So,
is it all because of the Suez Canal blockage?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so, I thought the California one was before that incident happened. I might be wrong on that.
But I think
most ships from that go to California would have to pass through the Suez Canal. So.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that is true. Yeah, but I mean, other than that, we have Instacart and DoorDash planning to launch their own credit cards.
They should do cryptocurrency.
Oh gosh, please no.
Honestly, a lot of companies are getting into crypto. Might as well imagine a DoorDash coin. Honestly,
yeah, honestly, I thought that Uber might be the first one in here, but I guess not.
Uber's always ahead of innovation, even though they're not profitable, which is kind of
They'll
funny.
never be profitable.
Yeah.
How are they worth $50 billion, or was it 30 to 50 or something like that?
Around that.
I think Uber Eats Uber Eats and Postmates substantially blew up their valuation.
Man, it's ridiculous how much those companies are valued, even though they're not profitable. Oh, never mind. Yep. Uber's worth $100 billion.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so off on that.
I think the share price is around $50. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, but I mean,
a lot of investors see
the
TAM in it, right? So,
yeah, but I mean,
there's
if you're not profitable
robo-taxis.
It's been 5 years, fam. Like, at some point, you got to worry about the shareholders.
I mean, Amazon is still not profitable, and it's been like almost 20 years.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. I mean, other news that we have the cruise operators who are pushing the federal authorities to let their voyages begin. I know Norwegian Cruise Line specifically, they've been like, we will mandate that everyone that boards it has to have like one of those COVID vaccine slips or whatever in order to board it.
The CDC, I got one too. It's a white
basically,
card that's globally accepted.
So basically a COVID passport, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a CDC approved COVID passport. It's great, honestly.
I mean, imagine if you know how you get your visa stamped on your passports when you travel. I mean, we could probably see some kind of similar thing with diseases or some virus. You get a stamp if you're vaccinated and you're allowed to travel, things like that. I think.
But then there's also the issue of like people who are allergic to the vaccine or choose not to take the vaccine. In some cases, their reasoning is justified. So in that case, what would happen? Would they be restricted from most um, global openings, or what would happen to them?
So yeah, well,
What do you think?
so this whole vaccine passport was a pretty big issue. I think in the UK and a few other countries, basically some activist groups were saying that because minorities don't trust, a lot. So there's when the vaccine was being developed and there was a lot of polling happening, a lot of black population, Hispanics, and minority populations said they wouldn't trust a vaccine that was being developed in a year and handed out. So when you're going, and most of them probably don't want to take the vaccine, and that's what showed in the polls. So when you make a vaccine passport, that would kind of discriminate these groups, right? So I guess I see
Yeah.
the point there.
I mean,
But
that's
Yeah.
their risk, though, isn't it? Like, if you choose not to take it, the risk is you have coronavirus yourself, and that's why you shouldn't be allowed to go anywhere. So, I mean, yeah, there's going to be some consequences no matter what. In the case of allergies, I mean, that's just an outlier, in my opinion. Like, it's
yeah,
really
it's not
hard to
probably
justify
like
that.
1 or 2% of the population.
Yeah, like you can't justify, locking in around 80% of the population who's been vaccinated for the 1 or 2% that can't really take it due to
But
underlying health concerns and all that.
But in general, it's ideal that we give our viewers a message saying, please get vaccinated. It's for your own safety,
Hmm.
and obviously, it's for the betterment of society in general.
Yeah, actually, I don't think we put this on there, but I don't know if it's the EU specifically or maybe Britain, but they're investigating whether the Johnson and Johnson shots are causing blood clots, a lot like AstraZeneca,
Yeah,
which
because recently a bunch of Johnson and Johnson doses got mixed with the AstraZeneca doses. So
really,
there's been a factory like mishap for Johnson and Johnson.
oh gosh,
So that's why a lot of people like the demand for Johnson and Johnson is down in the ground now, and everyone's trying to go for Pfizer because there's apparently certain issues with Moderna as well.
yeah, wow, I didn't even know about Moderna.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the issues are, but I've been reading up on certain issues with Moderna.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, other than that, just moving on with our updates. We'll probably talk more about these as the facts unfold. But President Biden, he wants, gun restrictions both in executive order terms as well as through Congress. There's the Chauvin trial in Minneapolis right now that's going on, where some interesting facts have been shown to the court. I know we were talking about it before we started upon that. But I think we can, skip these for now and discuss it once I think the full facts to us are available.
Yeah, right now it's a little too early. Only the prosecution's witness are being displayed right now. So
Hmm.
once we get to the defense's side of the trial as well, we'll continue to witness a lot more new evidence, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And then in terms of the economy, the Fed is the Fed, not really changing anything, just continuing to push out their QE initiative. And JP Morgan CEO, I think Mr. Diamond, predicted an economic boom for America that's hopefully going to extend through 2023. We'll see if that provides true.
I mean, with the amount of money being pumped into the government, you'd hope you'd see some short-term results, but
Interesting thing.
post 2 years?
JP Morgan put out a forecast for the S&P 500. They basically said that their price target was 4,500 for the end of the year. It's a $50 that's $50 to $45 increase from now. So that's really
Wow.
yeah.
Jesus.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we'll see
crazy
where
to think
that.
I mean, we're like again, like our last podcast, I would like to mention, we're artificially inflating the economy.
Yeah, that
Well,
is true. We'll see what the effects of that are
I think
in the
investors
future,
are
but
artificially, or not investors, but the market is being inflated. The assets, the equities are being inflated based on the news, but maybe the economy is, it's just in the recovery period. But equities, it's obviously a prediction of what's going to happen in the next few years, and everything's kind of being
Yeah.
priced in now. So that's why we have, such high multiples on stocks. So
Yeah, and investors specifically, like retail investors, in the past 5 months
They don't care.
have no, I mean they've put in, I think, more money into the stock market than they did in the
That's
previous
right.
12 months before that.
I think
And
retail investor activity was, I think, quadrupled during the COVID year. And
it
Robinhood's
just keeps gaining.
average account size was like tripled or doubled, I think, in the last year.
Hmm.
So, an insane amount of retailer investors have come into the market, and it's
Well,
just
apps just
brought in
make
more
it easy
volatility.
for them.
Yeah,
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 apps made it easy for them, so it's
Yeah.
just now there's no barriers to investing like there were in the past.
right. You
You
pretty much can.
essentially need no knowledge, just an app and money.
Right, right. And I
And
think I think
I've
like
been
early
talking with
on,
some.
like Shravan and I touched
Uh,
on this, but Robinhood, when the whole trial in the GameStop was going on, how retail investors have easy access to these leveraged equities like options and things like that, like even margin too. I mean, it takes you like
Hmm.
a week or two to get into those, right? And
Yeah.
that sort of thing brings a lot of volatility to the market. Like options activity goes up, and a lot of just brings a lot of volatility. So
All the Greeks are changing continuously.
yeah, yeah. Especially, I was talking with some guys in RBC and Credit Suisse, and they're saying that retail investors are a major talking point for them. Like they're focused more on them than they are, like, for example, like we're going to talk about the Archegos meltdown shortly, but they're more focused on retail investors and how they're going to affect the economy in the next 5 years.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess we can, actually move on to Archegos specifically. I mean, this was reported, I think, about a week and a half ago now, but Credit Suisse reported a $4.7 billion hit from this absolute disastrous of Bill Huang's. I don't even know what it is at this
Well,
point.
that's kind of because Credit Suisse and Nomura actually had kind of closeted themselves. They didn't really have any safeguards to stocks such as Viacom going down a
Hmm.
certain percentage. And Goldman and Morgan were pretty smart when it came to that because they sold off most of their equity, so they didn't lose much money. Whereas Credit Suisse and Nomura, they held on, and they weren't very smart in dealing with Bill
Yeah,
Huang's over 10% 10 times leverage.
this guy
I
Bill
remember
Huang,
like,
he was caught for like insider trading. He was fined millions of dollars. He was kind of blacklisted. He wasn't. I don't think he was paused for trading. Like he didn't get his trading license revoked or anything. But the fact
mhm.
that these investment bankers like gave him a lot of freedom to do this, it just blows my mind. I mean, to take this much of a lever, I think he had like 20 billion and just wiped it all out in a matter of days.
Yeah.
So
That's because it was all on margin, and the deal with most banks was if Viacom goes down below 5%, it's a margin call, but Viacom went down like 20 and 40%. So it was ridiculous. Like he clearly didn't make smart trades when on margin.
Yeah, it's insane how a small news story about what was it? $1 billion in block trade
And what's
from.
hilarious to me is Archegos' entire business model, because it's supposed to be a family investing hedge fund. So
Hmm.
essentially, everyone who invests into it is part of Bill Huang's family, so he could just avoid the SEC for as long as
Ah,
possible.
gosh,
And did he really think that that was a good idea and that he would never get caught?
it's insane. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, hedge funds have not had. Actually, there's been a couple, but mostly hedge funds have not had a great first quarter. I know Melvin Capital has been reported of, I think, like a 49% loss. Yeah, I mean,
It's just the markets. The markets have
gosh.
been moving sideways for a couple of months. As fellow investors, we've been noticing certain things as well,
Yeah, but to
where not a
lose
lot of stocks are moving
49%,
vertically.
fam, in one
that's
quarter,
50%
like,
of your
you
capital.
didn't, you fucked up big time.
Yeah, yeah.
How do
Jesus,
you
I still,
how do you
I can't
recover
believe
from
that.
that? I mean, nothing-
I don't think there is a recovery. I think it's game over for him, and I don't
no,
think
I
anyone's
mean
gonna
they did
trust him
raise
with their
capital
money
from
again.
existing investors, and like their buddies all helped them out, right? It's Wall Street, but that's just insane. I mean, fifty
It's Wall
percent of your
Street, but it's
capital.
also Bill Huang. He's a man with a history. Even Wall Street has its own concerns.
Yeah. But I think like when we first talked about this, Shravan brought up all those block trades, and we thought like, okay, maybe Goldman Sachs and these guys were just selling the stock. Like they were selling Chinese stock. So we thought maybe Biden was going to come out with some legislation
Yeah,
or
that's
SEC was going
right.
to ban these stocks, and that's why they're selling. But turns out this guy Bill Huang had these leveraged positions in Viacom and CBS, and yeah, that just the fact that that swung the market so hard. I mean, that's insane. This
Yeah.
one guy, all these banks just it shows like the extent of influence these investor bankers have. I mean, if this action has caused this swing in the market, I mean, imagine like the other manipulation they're doing. So
I mean, it's $20 billion. It's no joke.
No.
$20 billion of borrowed money, so it kind of creates a fallacy in the market too. Because now when you pay back the money, but the stocks are still bought, what happens?
Gosh.
It's similar to the GameStop situation where people are buying shorting massive amounts with leveraged money, uh, and it's really hard to keep track. It kind of like duplicates the value
yeah,
in a sense.
they're short. I think the short interest was over 100%. So
Yeah,
Yeah, 112, I think, at one point.
it's still pretty high. I think GameStop short interest is still over
they're
20%,
so salty
which is
about the whole
substantial.
thing. They just want to short it to the ground. That's exactly.
GameStop
Yeah.
keeps rising. Oh man, good for them. Good for them. I mean, if you look at their chart, it looks absolutely ridiculous. But
Yep.
oh man, I
It's
can't believe that.
it's honestly a kid in the playground under the monkey bar, on the monkey bars. That's the stock chart of the GameStop right
Yeah.
now.
But I think one other financial firm we have to bash is Sherman Financial, who has filed for more debt collection lawsuits after lockdowns began. And I mean, these debt collections are to people in poverty, people close to the poverty line, and some of them even middle class families. I mean, how do you even justify doing this when I think their competitors are the ones who gave some leeway to
I mean,
whoever was in
remember
debt
we
to
saw
them.
we saw this coming. Like a lot of debt was piled up because of the forgiveness period in
Uh-huh.
2020.
No, no, no.
And
I'm talking. This was 2020. I'm talking about. Not even
oh, this
2021. Within 2020 alone, they filed, I think, 15,000 debt collection lawsuits.
wow.
Yeah, not even this. If it was 2021, sure, I can get it. Like 1 year after it's due, all right, maybe you have to go out. But this was like right after the pandemic hit, as people were
That
losing their jobs and everything.
that's hideous. That's honestly a detriment to recovery.
Gee, I mean, 13% of the U.S. population was used,
Wow.
or 13% of the courts within the U.S. were used for Sherman Financial's debt collection lawsuits. I mean, that's ridiculous. No firm should be doing that.
I mean, the fact that the firm spent that much capital on just lawsuits shows some sort of desperation.
Oh man, when I read it, I was shocked, and I'm surprised the Wall Street Journal somehow even found out how much damage this financial firm did within 1 year. But yeah, think about it. All those stimulus checks and unemployment benefits, like some people had to pay it off for debt, even though, they should have been saved by the government or the debt collection agencies themselves. But yes, the things people do for money.
Yeah.
And speaking of assholes, Amazon is another one. Their union
The
efforts.
union crisis. Yeah.
God dang, did you see that one Twitter account where they posted, or
Bro,
their profile
that-
photo was Dude Perfect?
Yeah,
It's like
I
the
know.
Dude Perfect guy. And I was like, what the hell?
It's the
Oh my
funniest shit I've
gosh.
seen.
The lengths that some corporates go to
I mean,
sustain their way of life.
unionization will never really work against Amazon if you really think about it.
No, it
Because
won't.
like,
But
what can they really advocate for? Like
I-
higher wages.
Amazon
Like,
will-
Amazon's obviously not going to pay up.
They're
Amazon's
basically
done
Amazon's
everything as
argument.
well.
Amazon's argument was basically like, we're already giving you all these benefits. Like, I think they increase their wage. They did increase their wage, right?
I mean, there's $15. They have healthcare benefits.
yeah,
and,
yeah. So they have all the
other
benefits
insurance
existing.
benefits.
Yeah. That was the
And
reasoning. And it ended up,
Yeah.
I mean, the workers ended up voting against the union, right? It was the workers that voted against. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a
but
failure.
Amazon
Like
obviously,
the,
yeah,
I think it was like the Delaware one they had in 2014 a couple years ago as well. That one failed as well. I mean, you just can't fight against Amazon.
Yeah. And
Gosh.
in general, unionization only worked in the public sector very well
Mm-hmm.
because obviously the people v government usually ends in the favor of the people. But when it comes to a private sector company, it's very hard to point out points as a union to get them in your favor, you know? Like what would they advocate for? Like higher wages? Sure, Amazon will pay them, but then their working like lifestyle would not change at all. So their main concerns with Amazon would never be solved essentially.
Yeah, doesn't Google have like some union efforts in it, or like a small union of like software developers or something? I
It
think,
might be it might be like a club within Google that and they have like a voice, but I don't think it's like an official union of software engineers.
maybe. I don't know. I remember reading about it somewhere. I didn't. No, no, no. They did create a union. I don't know. Let me look at it a bit. But yeah, it's the company's first ever union. And I mean, yeah, I don't really see what the point is for, higher waged workers and
Yeah.
for unions specifically.
hmm Speaking of Amazon, actually, and not just Amazon, but a lot of tech companies and car companies, a lot's been happening with the semiconductor shortage. If you
Mm-hmm.
guys have been noticing, GM has had to shut down production. A lot of gaming industries, right? Like the PS5 production has halted. GPUs are much more scarce, affecting the gaming industry overall. You notice that Apple has to cut down on production of iPhones and MacBooks because they don't have enough chips to manufacture their new processors. So you take a look at the productivity industry taking a massive hit. Companies like Amazon would now have to revamp their production process for their technology such as Alexa. So that's a massive crisis that we really need to talk about.
yeah. GM, I think they're predicting about $2 billion loss because of this for this year.
Wow. That's
I think
basically,
Apple is also stating similar figures of loss as well, because that it would cut down their iPhone 12 production process as well.
Yeah, I mean, so I think like another factor that plays into this is the people who are, buying this with bots and reselling. So Sherman and I were looking at graphics cards the other day, and when you look at the order history, right, 10, 20 graphics cards were bought in the same minute. So there's these bots that are buying up, graphics cards when it comes into stock just seconds after it, and the scarcity, right? So they're buying it obviously to mine. They're buying cards with a good hash rate to mine, right? And
hmm
the only, I think maybe that will slow down this is probably a bubble burst in cryptocurrencies, where Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, they all come down significantly, like 50, 40%.
I mean, that's not really gonna stop mining per se, because mine the whole
But it would
concept
be
of
it would
mining
be
is you
like the
get
same thing
consistent
as,
income, right?
right, but it will be the same thing as 2017. I mean, this happened the same. It happened with GTX cards, right? Um,
hmm
but now we have an added factor of all these like Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing and Samsung not being able to fill the orders for production. So there is so many factors that are at play. The demand is sky high and supply is so low. That's why the prices are so inflated. And this is
Yeah.
probably gonna last till early next year. So I
I would
mean,
not say early next year. I feel like come Thanksgiving, it will recover because Thanksgiving is a huge event for chip manufacturers
mhm.
and tech companies because that's when like most of their revenue is really pumped, right? So when it comes to November, we hope to see some sort of production shift when it comes to these chip manufacturing companies because otherwise they lose out their biggest event of the year.
Right. Well, I mean, Asus and a few other manufacturers have raised their prices actually. So Asus GPUs are set at another price floor. So if production comes back to normal, which I don't actually see happening even in November, Because if you read what Taiwan, TSM, and Samsung, if you look at their situation, they're not able to manufacture to the POs, the purchasing orders, right? So, I mean, it's also COVID-19 factor. We need. I don't know if they're factory workers that they have a smaller workforce, but there's a lot of factors that are being played in here, and for that to be resolved in the next 6 months, it's wishful thinking. I mean, I think we both Sherman and I would love to see prices drop in Thanksgiving because we're planning on building PCs, but a lot of economists are forecasting that this will last till the end of 2021, at least like December. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes.
I mean, for my own selfish interests, I really hope the issue's resolved because I intend to buy graphics cards for Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Yeah, hopefully.
Facts. I mean, specifically for GM, I don't think they'll take as huge of a hit as other companies because they have their finance side. So, I mean, they can, reduce some of their net losses through that.
Yeah.
Companies that are taking a huge hit are the EV companies. So NIO, I think twice in the past month announced that they're halting production for a few days, or they're decreasing production, and their stock price have taken a huge hit because of that. So and also I think Tesla also said that, right? So so we'll have to see how these manufacturers do the next few months.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if some sort of in-house chip manufacturing mechanism comes up for some of these companies like Tesla.
Yeah,
they have the capital to definitely start something like that.
Right. I mean,
of course, it's about resources as well, but
that's what Biden's
goes.
plan is, right? So in his infrastructure plan, he basically took a few economists and put them in a team to look into this chip shortage situation.
But that's going to be short term. I mean, long term goals. It's not. Because an executive order, it's going to take a long time to figure that out.
I mean, even if it takes a long time, I think that the fact of the matter is we're 10%. We produce about 10% of the semiconductors in a global stage, right? So if we're going to set up a plan to kind of slowly take the market share back to domestic, that's probably good. If you can do it in the next 10 years, set the foundation under the Biden administration. It's always a good thing to bring back production to our country instead of having to outsource it, right? That's what Intel's trying to do. They're trying to outsource it. So we need to bring back and also obviously jobs go up, right? So we need to bring back all the manufacturing and production back domestic. And wasn't Samsung going to build a plant in Arizona or Nevada? I think right.
You know really better than me.
Yeah, I think it was Samsung or some other company, some major company. They were gonna build a production plant in one of the states near Texas. But yeah, I mean, it's all good. It will be good if Biden sets the steps for bringing production back to our country, especially these chips and semiconductors.
It's honestly a more profitable business than defense, because a lot of defense equipment also requires chips, right?
I mean, so weapon sales is what the government knows.
The new niche. Yeah.
That's all they know.
Become a new niche.
War Dogs vibes.
Yeah.
Right now. But yeah,
billions
I think
of dollars
another
into fighters and sell them to all these Middle Eastern countries. Let them fight each other and do it again. Repeat. That's exactly what we know.
Welcome to the U.S. government. But I don't know. I was telling Joel yesterday, the best investment I think we could have done is just buy as much graphics cards as we could have, and then just resell it on eBay. That would have been better than I think buying Tesla stock even.
Dude, some of the cards
have you seen the markup?
eBay, yeah, that's what I'm trying. So I think the RTX 3070 went for $3,000, which is mind-boggling. I mean, that's insane. $3,000 for the art. What the MSRP was what was it? 700,
500.
Hey, I'm still riding on a GTX 1060. You think I could fetch some cash with that?
I honestly think you could. Just go with
Might
that.
have to hop on eBay.
So you're trying to? What do you mean?
Sell it.
Oh, sell the But what are you gonna do without a graphics card? You can't do anything. Running until you graphics.
Hey, if I'm fetching like a $600 profit, man, I could live without a graphics card for a couple of months.
I mean, so we were looking at GTX graphics cards on eBay too, and some of them were going for like $100. I think it was
Okay, never mind
it was
then.
the 1080, right, Sherman? I think that's what we're looking at. It was $100.
Oh yeah, that was the one. But
Yeah,
yeah,
It's $100?
yeah. The 1080 Ti was $100. I saw one.
Oh man, old is old. Then my graphics card's like $20.
but yeah. I think another issue that corporations are going to face soon is taxes. I mean, no surprise there. I mean, with the
Yeah.
Democratic administration taking over the entire government, they were bound to introduce it at some point. Um, but yeah,
Once
what's
again,
shocking is New York actually setting to increase their taxes, which, yeah, some companies say could hinder the recovery measures that New York is trying to do, while others are saying that it may help, the poor population. But I don't know, with what we've seen in California, does high tax rates really
it really
help
doesn't
out?
work. It doesn't because most
California's
companies
an
in
example,
California
bro.
tend to like
Yeah.
Californian companies like Tesla just switch out. They move to places like Houston
No,
where
I mean
they
it's
pay much
not
less
only that.
taxes.
It's not only that. It's just like the high taxes are supposed to help out the people, underprivileged people,
It
and
doesn't
yet,
work like that.
yeah,
See,
Explain
the
why.
thing about
I would
California.
say
Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I would say this the whole point, the whole like policy to raise taxes is BS liberal policy, and let me explain why. When you raise taxes on rich corporations, right? It doesn't really work because first of all, they already don't pay taxes, and there's a reason for that. They're pretty smart. There's two ways to evade taxes. One is obviously shell companies, which is Apple's preferred way to evade taxes. And then there's companies like Amazon that utilize stock buyback to not pay taxes. For example, 90% of Jeff Bezos' equity is just in stock buyback, right?
hmm
So when they have a lot of evasion tactics that the government chooses to turn a blind eye to and not patch up, right? Raising taxes is just a farce, right? It's to
no,
please the
yeah, yeah,
public
yeah.
because the public thinks that they're gonna pay more taxes, but in reality, the effective tax rate on them is still zero.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, what I was saying with California is, even though, many people say that it helps the poor people, I mean, I know a couple people who live in LA who are like, yeah, the homeless like streets have like picked up ever since like 2019 or something, and the government hasn't been doing shit, which is ridiculous.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know why they would increase their state taxes, especially with New York being the way New York is. Um, I mean, the only way to really help, like, make corporates pay more taxes is by federal proposed taxes, which is what President Biden is doing. He's kind of, softened his tax proposal, I think, just to get past the Senate. That's the main reason he's doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to see where this could go in the future. I mean, I know Jeff Bezos, you were talking about him earlier. He was welcoming the new tax regulations,
Once
which
again, a farce
it,
because
that
he,
should scare us. I mean,
yeah.
one, all the small businesses are going to get affected by it, and two, as long as he doesn't sell 80% of his shares within Amazon, he's not going to get taxed much. And Amazon as a whole is not even profitable, so what can they get taxed on?
Yeah, the corporation doesn't get taxed in the first place, and individuals have their money elsewhere in
Cayman
investments, real
Islands.
estate. Yeah, Cayman Islands, they have like a cruise, like a yacht that's always appreciating in value. Like, cool, bro. Like, I own half the world now. Can't tax me on it.
Oh man, that's it's crazy. But I think another point we got to mention on is Apple's app security, app privacy update, and how that will affect us into the future. Because I think we all have Apple products, right?
I really love how Apple is making these strides when it comes to privacy because a lot of other companies such as Google, their entire business model relies on stealing your data, right? Like same thing with Facebook. without your data, they're pretty much worthless. Their entire business model collapses.
I
The
mean,
fact that
not really,
Apple
but
is
a good portion of it, right?
because
Will disrupt.
90% of Facebook's revenue to this day is ad revenue, and
Well,
most of
yeah.
those ads are funneled by them buying data from insurance companies so they can target ads, right? That's kind of how it works. And they also have their own algorithms to collect more data from you. Same thing with companies like TikTok. TikTok is essentially China's Facebook, where they're collecting data for the CCP through your phones, right? So all these companies, while they're reliant on collecting data, I love how Apple is being the responsible company here and following like an ethical code where they have much better data privacy than other people.
Apple ethical? I mean,
I still feel
child
that
labor
Apple is
making
much more
iPhones
ethical
I
than
mean,
most
in
companies.
China.
compared to other companies, I think
Compared to
they're
other
the most
companies?
Oh yeah,
ethically
this is
reaching
this is a
out.
great move by Apple. Much respect for them. I mean,
Yeah.
to give the
But
option to users to be not be able to be tracked by these guys. I mean, obviously, like 90% of the users are gonna, once they update the iOS, they're gonna click on that option, right? It's a no-brainer. You don't want to be tracked, so we'll
but
have
the
to see
thing
what
is,
happens
like
with Facebook and Google.
the way companies are trying to circumvent this. Like I didn't even know, Procter and Gamble, right? Yeah, so I didn't even know that they're against this. Like they're developing a technique with some Chinese companies to find ways to circumvent this and gather their own data from iPhones,
And
which
that's really like it's very like disheartening because you'd expect companies like Procter and Gamble that's like everywhere, right? Like from Tide and like dish soap, like
Mhm.
Procter and Gamble is everywhere, right? And the fact that such a company that we depend on for daily goods is allying with the Chinese government to steal data and circumvent an ethical like placeholder that Apple has presented us with, right, is disgusting. Because why? Like I just don't understand
I
why
mean,
the whole
yeah.
tech world is moving towards more privacy. Why is Procter and Gamble regressing to the past?
My thing is just if Procter and Gamble is going to such lengths for something I didn't even think they would do, then what the hell would companies like Facebook
Oh
and
no, they're definitely working on new strategies,
yeah,
of course, obviously.
Jesus.
Like the fact that it wasn't Facebook that did this with the Chinese government, the fact that Procter and Gamble did is like even more astonishing. Like why? Their business model doesn't rely on data in the first place.
That just shows you the amount of data that they collect that you don't see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess speaking of Facebook, I think must have been like 2 weeks ago by now, but there was a 2019 hack within Facebook that was made public in recent days, and over 500 million. Or was it 500
Could be one of us.
billion?
No, it's fine. It's 500 million users.
That was 500 million. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean that's still insane.
They didn't want to
That's
release who got attacked. So basically, what people expected was they were going to like notify, like if you went on your Facebook app or a Messenger, you'll be notified that you were hacked 3 years ago. But Facebook decided not to do that. Which I mean, I don't know what to make of it, but I personally I wouldn't want to get a notification being saying that I was hacked 2 years ago. I mean, that's kind of
That's insane,
scary.
though. That's
I'm pretty
more
sure
than the
all of us
US
have been hacked on Facebook at least once. Like remember the whole "this you"
Oh
phenomenon?
gosh, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
right.
On Messenger.
yeah.
I never fell for that. I never got hacked because of that. Thankfully.
I got hacked once. I got this message saying you're in this video, and I was like, wait a second. And I clicked on it, and it was like, all right, buddy, I'll take your entire account, your bank statements, and your mom.
Okay.
Boom.
But yeah, I don't think 500 million, isn't that's way more than what the US population is right now, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That is,
It's up
yeah,
there
but
with-
like once,
It could be its own like big country. Like what the hell?
dude, that's half India's population.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh. And no reprimands, oh man.
I mean, hopefully they like tighten their security, right?
They probably did.
Facebook's always
I mean,
improving.
2
I mean,
years.
that's what
it's
we
been
hope.
2 years.
But
That's what LinkedIn did. Remember the LinkedIn crisis when LinkedIn was hacked and most of her passwords were stolen?
yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
on then, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, this happens with companies time to time because every encryption method they use for their passwords It can always be broken. That's why they have to continue innovating new encryption strategies. That's what LinkedIn did. They moved from MD to SHA 256 for their passwords. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think it's time to move on from I guess domestic news to more foreign relation news. We can start, as usual with China. Like every goddamn week.
China.
Every week we're talking something about them. And
they're in the news too much, man.
Yeah, they are. And this time it's with Tesla yet again, in which their cameras aren't activated outside of North America. And this is mainly, I guess, to ensure their privacy. I don't really know why they would do this. I'm actually kind of shocked. I mean, isn't the point of having a Tesla is to have autopilot and everything? And they have to use cameras and sensor activations for that?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Tesla's whole like vehicle wouldn't work in like non-developed countries. Like let's think about it. Like
no, but
if you drive a Tesla in Mexico.
We're talking about. Like,
right. I mean, China's whole deal with this was, first they banned military officers there from buying Teslas, and I think now looks like they're trying to pressure Tesla to turn off the cameras, and maybe so. I think here with the highway infrastructure, Tesla can adapt, and it's been trained, right? The Tesla computers have been trained to drive in this in these highways. For I don't know about UK, probably UK and most of the European countries, definitely not India, but I'm pretty sure China. They're probably because they're just building their gigafactory there, and they're probably starting to train their cars to adapt to the highway system there. So it's kind of surprising that the cameras are not going to be activated. I think Tesla cars have a array of sensors, right? Sonar and a few other things, but cameras also essential component for that to read the stoplight, all the signs and things like that. I thought it was just for things like maybe they're probably worried about, like, let's say a car is just parked on a street, next to some sensitive government, maybe a sensitive government building. Maybe then it could be accessed because basically it's a computer on wheels, right? So it can be hacked, and that's probably what China's worrying about. So but there's probably like more news on this that we'll have to cover if we want to go in deep.
Yeah, and I guess their COVID news is another thing that's been a major talking point in the past month. I think the U.S. specifically said they're going to do their own investigation on how this entire virus originated. And right now, I think they're studying frozen blood samples, which are stored in China to say, how long the virus has been circulating before the first cases were discovered back in, I think, December of 2019. So well, hopefully we can see how it originated, although I don't know.
Probably never going to get any information.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, let's see. For example, when the first like coronavirus like breakouts happened, right? According to WHO and the CDC, China had a lot more cases than disclosed, and there wasn't a fair information transfer between China and the rest of the world. So you can't really trust this country when it comes to COVID and their statistics, So I would be much more comfortable with a third-party country, like something like the UK, studying these frozen blood samples rather than China. But that's not going to happen, obviously.
Yeah, never. But yeah, I think going on to more COVID news, this time in Britain, the UK is now limiting the AstraZeneca vaccine as well, due to
as they should.
Yeah, for the blood clots there, and but the EU says the benefits continue to outweigh the risks of the virus, which is kind of shocking. This is, I think, the first time ever that I'm ever going to agree with what the UK is doing rather than the EU. But yeah,
I mean, if any citizens are dying because of it, there's a possibility that not just a small portion, but a lot more people can get affected with these blood clots. Especially in some cases, it's the blood clot in the brain. That's a life risk, right? So why would you, rather than just waiting for COVID to hit and you being hospitalized due to that, why would you put yourself in a position where you could get a brain clot? So I'm glad that the UK is taking these moves, and the EU should really reevaluate their position on a human's life.
Yeah, I
Another thing
mean,
about UK is the variant. Their B117 variant is shown to have a high risk for mortality, so the mortality rates increase, and now it's actually the dominant variant in the US. And a lot of, I was watching CNN the other day, and this doctor came on, and he said that we should actually be very cautious about reopening efforts and things like that, because because if you look at the cases graph, it's actually increasing. It's continuing to increase. So there's a concern that are we being watchful of this? Are we reopening too soon? I haven't read much about the effects of Moderna and Pfizer's vaccine on the variant, but if these
So the way the Pfizer vaccines are working on the new variants is that, so they weren't designed to take into account all these new variants,
Okay.
right? They were designed just for the original strain, right? But the thing with Pfizer is it still guarantees 100% no hospitalization rate. So even with the new strains, for example, even if you get the Brazilian strain, which is supposed to be the most deadly, right? You're not going to go to the hospital because the vaccine fights against it. Because the protein that almost all these strains make are very similar. So it's your body, like when you have the Pfizer vaccine, it automatically recognizes it.
yeah, that's what we hope to see. Still tough to see early on how effective the vaccine truly is on, the majority populace. But maybe by next year we can see how effective it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, some other smaller news. Saudi Arabia, again, their oil pipelines. I think their energy giant. Aramco, their energy giant in Saudi Arabia, is planning to sell a minority stake of U.S., Chinese, and local investors, which is interesting, especially with, I think, China's, wasn't it China's New Deal, security deal with Iran, where, China's planning to take control of their oil. I don't know. I kind of forgot, like, the details within their agreement, but it's interesting to hear that Aramco is planning to sell their pipelines to both U.S. and China.
More support to China. Let's go.
Yep.
More control.
And lastly,
Yeah.
And lastly, we have the Palestinian aid, where the Biden administration is restoring millions of dollars to both economic and humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. And this is basically, another step going against whatever Trump did in his 4 years.
Yeah, Trump was pro-Israel, while Biden, the Democratic Party in general, is pro-minorities.
Biden's actually
everything,
pro-Israel. I mean, if you look at his past records, a few decades ago, he was actually
Yeah, but-
pro-Zionist
But
movements and
this
things like
is
that.
Democrats.
This is
now.
standard politics. He's
Yeah,
a Democrat now.
This is
so
actually,
he's gotta
I'm
stick
pretty
to
sure
the
Kamala's
party.
influence. Kamala, when she was running, she was actually pro-Palestinian. So, maybe like her administration could have some influence on this.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
All right, and I guess some, upcoming news for next week, as well as some trade ideas. I know that Coinbase IPO is coming out, which is going to be huge for both the crypto market as well as, I think, the stock market in general. I wouldn't doubt to see Bitcoin jump around on, is it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it's the 14th. That might be
The
Thursday, my
IPO?
bad. Yeah, I think I was wrong. It's Thursday. Oh no, it's
14th is a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday. I'm trolling.
Okay.
But yeah, that's sure to provide some volatility on that day. So yeah, I guess watch
Speaking
out
of
for that.
April 14th, Palantir is going to have their second demo day.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a very, yeah.
We'd love to see demo days, beautiful stock rise, and the calls start printing.
After that, they'll sell after the news. So maybe Monday and Tuesday we'll see a rise in price in anticipation. But another interesting thing about Palantir this year that I'd like to touch on is, so last year, whenever they announced the contract, they would actually put the value of the contract, so like $80 million or $50 million. But now when a new contract comes out, they actually don't disclose the value of the contract. And now I think there's so the way I see it is, so Palantir is trying to limit analysts from getting an accurate projection for revenue and EPS, right, whenever the next quarterly earning comes in. So this will allow them to effectively beat estimates, right? So most of the contracts, so I think it actually got leaked. So one of the recent contracts was worth up to like $300 million, and they didn't disclose it at the time. So those big contracts that are happening this year, they're not being disclosed. And once the next quarterly earnings comes out in May, I think Palantir has a really good chance of beating estimates that analysts put out because they don't have the information, right?
I think they're just gonna try and up their backlog as much as possible before releasing all of it on earnings.
Yeah. Another thing for summer was solar stocks. So for summer, obviously global temperatures is rising. People are still at home, so maybe a solar stock play could be a good something to put in your portfolio for anticipation and rise for the summer. So we should be looking at some good stocks that are valued right, especially after the whole meltdown tech sector had last month. So a lot of stocks growth stocks are trading at 50% down from highs. So it could be a solid time to put on your positions.
I myself am planning to sell my shares in XLE, at least the rest of it, and then start moving into...
XLE is tech sector, right?
No, XLE is the energy sector.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's provided...
tech sector.
Yeah, I think we said, back in January itself, like, this is a good sector to invest in, and it's up 40% since then. So, good trade on our part. And yeah, I think some high growth stocks like Palantir, the solar stocks that we saw rise, they're bound to, again, do well in the coming months. But yeah, I guess that's it from us. As we all are Indian Americans, we'd like to wish any of our viewers a happy new year. And we will see you guys next week.